All right, welcome everyone. We're super excited today. I'm Dr. Jacob Wilson. You're actually in one of our labs right now. See Andrew Barninger back there. This is one of the spots that we draw blood when we're doing studies for ketogenic dieting. So yeah, you're actually in one of our blood labs right now. Hey Ashley, what's going on? Good morning. So today, what we're going to do? What's up, Pam? We're super excited today. As you know, basically Prove It's really revolutionized the whole field of nutrition in general by introducing exogenous ketones. I can remember when I first started doing research on ketones, the cost for ketones was literally like, you're talking about like $1,000 a serving. It was literally astronomical, unreal. And so basically ketones weren't even available to the general public. Of course, Prove It came on the market, changed that. Now the power of ketones is available to everybody, and that is freaking awesome. So, like I said, this is one of the labs that where we draw blood when we're doing research. You can kind of see that's like a phlebotomy chair. We'll take blood when we're doing studies. We got a bunch of ketones in the back right there in boxes where we actually are administering and testing ketones, new different innovative combinations of ketones that we're testing in the lab, constantly staying on that cutting edge. Ryan Lowry is actually in the back in his office right now, doing research right now on exogenous ketones. So we're super excited. Well, today, as you know, is going to be, it's for you. So any questions that you have regarding ketogenic dieting, regarding exogenous ketones, just ask me. I'm happy to answer that live. We have been doing a lot of research on the impact of ketones in performance, body composition, but of course, as you know, ketones also play a large role in things like cognitive function. So just think about any of those topics that you're interested in, and I'm happy to answer them. So, okay.
Give it a rouse them off. Yeah,
actually, I have Andy here. He's going to read some of the questions off as well. And we can go. Hey Tabitha, how's it going?
Actually, there is no question.
So, what's the difference between ketone and a ketone body?
Well, I mean, it's just different. Okay, sorry. You're basically it's the same. You could name a ketone body like a ketone as well. So, can you get hot flashes from taking ketones? We've done a lot of safety studies on ketones, and I've never seen that happen.
Can you explain the difference between different types of ketones?
Yeah, so there are different types of ketones that are out there, but there's like your body produces, for example, something called RBHB, which is like your natural ketone that your body makes, and then there are different forms. There's also a type that's made that's called like DLBHB, which is a combination. If you think about ketones, you have like left-handed and right-handed. Your body makes right-handed. So there's a left-handed version, but it's not the type that your body makes, so it's not as potent as the RBHB that you have. So those are the different ketones that you actually have. Okay.
Are there any? What's the best time of day to take ketones? And
so when we talk about taking ketones, like the best time of the day to take them, it really is all going to depend on like your schedule and how you work. One of the things that we do believe in, we do think that works really well, is intermittent fasting. But intermittent fasting is very difficult for individuals in the sense that, sometimes they can't think straight during those morning hours. They need to have an energy source. So one way you can do it is do a modified intermittent fast, where essentially you start your day off with ketones. And I do think that's a very beneficial thing that you can do. So I would say first thing in the morning, get your day started with some ketones. I think another good time to have them is with lunch as a pick-me-up. And of course, even having some pre-bed. Just make sure you're not taking the caffeinated kind, right? Okay, so next question.
Ketones and type 2 diabetes.
Well, I think the biggest thing, if you look at type 2 diabetes, essentially it's a disease to where you can't use glucose very well. One thing that ketones do is they do improve insulin sensitivity. Insulin sensitivity allows us to use glucose better. So there is a lot of research that shows ketones can be beneficial with that.
What if you combine carbs and ketones? What happens?
If you combine carbs and ketones, your body will preferentially use ketones because it's just a more efficient energy source. Your brain wants to use it. When you're training, your muscles want to use it. And so I think that's really cool. So of the two, it's going to select ketones, but technically I'll still be using some carbs too. So you'll have essentially what's known as a dual fuel. Okay.
My daughter has a cognitive learning disability and is drinking the orange. Would the Keto Max help her more?
So again, like anytime you obviously have a cognitive disability, make sure you see your doctor. What I will say is this: Keto Max is a more potent formula. So it's a potent. Both are great, but it's more of a potent formula. You tend to get ketones up higher.
Does weight make a difference on how much ketones you should be taking?
Weight, I think the thing is Prove It designed the packets to accommodate the main average body type that we have, right? A guy like me, about 185 pounds, a packet of ketones is going to be absolutely perfect for me. But if you're maybe 250 pounds, 300 pounds, you might need a little bit more. You might need to take a little bit, an extra packet a day of ketones compared to what a guy like me might take.
Passive muscle building that comes with ketones.
So one question is do ketones have an effect on muscle? And this is a big thing for Ryan, Larry, and I. We're very excited about this topic. You have to understand how muscle grows, okay? So basically, muscle grows. You can, or actually, the best way to think about it is like this: when you have money, okay, how do you build up your bank account? One way is to add money to the bank account. Another way is not to lose it as fast. So ketones, when you would normally lose muscle, protect you from losing muscle. So they can protect you from that bank account being depleted as fast. So same thing with muscle. The second thing that ketones do is they actually stimulate processes that are important for muscle growth. So yeah, theoretically speaking, ketones may be anabolic and they might help us gain muscle. Someone says, love you both and love the Ketogenic Bible. Hey, thank you so much. Yeah. What's coming that's new for Prove It? Oh, you got to wait till the next event in November. A ton of stuff. I mean, talking about a ton of stuff. Okay.
Ketones and adult ADHD.
So, a lot of questions people have attention deficit disorder. I know a little bit about that for sure.
Yes.
But the biggest thing to understand is that there's a lot of evidence that ADHD is a disorder where it's difficult for the brain to utilize glucose, and mitochondria, which is where our body produces energy, doesn't function as well. So if your brain can't use glucose as well, and that's some of the reasons why you cannot focus your attention, what do? Well, you would add a different fuel source in the form of ketones. So there's a lot of research on ketones and ketogenic dieting as it pertains to ADHD, and it seems to be efficacious in those studies.
Why is it not advised for ketogenic dieting to be used with someone with gastric bypass?
Well, again, I think when you're talking about ketogenic dieting and someone with gastric bypass, I mean that's a situation where you essentially don't have as much room, in your stomach to hold food. You're rearranging your whole gut. And so, when you're in that situation, you really need to meet with your doctor. Can you do a modified version of ketogenic dieting where maybe you can't go as high in fat, but you can use ketones? I think that could be something that's potentially beneficial. So that's just something that you want to think about. Probably for them, it's going to be more of a modified version of that. But obviously having a big, huge steak with blue cheese all over it when you just had a gastric bypass, it just logically is not going to be ideal. You're eating a lot smaller foods. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't follow a low-carb diet. So, just saying. Okay.
PTSD?
So PTSD is a subject that's very near and dear to us. Like, you can get it in a lot of different ways. Like, my dad was a firefighter, and he's had symptoms like that. Ryan has a lot of, his father was military. There's a lot of people that are close to us that do have PTSD, are military. More people are dying from suicide than they are from actually being in combat in the military, and that's scary. What we see with PTSD is it seems to be characterized by symptoms like being insulin resistant, not being able to use glucose very well, and oftentimes gaining a lot of fat, in which case an alternative fuel source could be very beneficial. There is data out there showing ketogenic diet and ketones can help with PTSD. So I do think it's definitely something that can help. Christy says, loved hearing Ryan's story in Vegas. That was honestly one of the most powerful stories I'd ever heard. Absolutely amazing story. So being around Ryan every day, I can't even describe how awesome it is. The guy's phenomenal. All right, keep hitting me with your questions, guys. Yeah, but going off, just thinking about like going to that soldier component of things. Someone says, does it help with chronic pain? There's evidence that actually Dom was involved in publishing where ketones have an anti-inflammatory effect. In which case, yeah, they would help with, potentially help with chronic pain. That's a really good question that you have. So going back into like our soldiers and stuff like that, you think about like where could ketones be potentially beneficial for things like our soldiers? Because we talked about PTSD being one of the major things. The other thing is like being resistant to stress. There is some evidence that ketones may help us be more resilient to stress, more resilient to fatigue, more resilient to being deprived of sleep. And so I think that's one thing that's beneficial. But also ketones help spare muscle. So if you're in the field, one thing I used to do a lot of research on in grad school, we actually did a study with individuals who, where we mimicked sustained military mission with a substance that actually turns to ketones. And we found that it prevented a lot of the muscle loss that you get with these sustained military missions. So what do you know about seizures and ketones? Well, the original research that was actually done with ketogenic dieting and ketones was actually in seizures. So probably the largest body of literature we have with ketones or ketogenic dieting is with seizures. And so there's definitely a lot of evidence. And in fact, if you talk to your physician, if someone has seizures, talk to them about the ketogenic diet. Talk to them about exogenous ketones. It is a go-to treatment for physicians now.
What makes the Prove It ketones better than any other BHB salt on the market?
Basically, the Prove It ketones are the ketones that your bodies make. And it's the only one on the market that actually has that. So it's basically the signature ketone that your body actually produces. Prove It's ketones are the only ones on the market that does that. Of course, there's a bunch of other things. The quality is tested out to be the highest quality that's out on the market. And of course, when you're talking about Prove It, it's not just the ketones themselves, it's the education that Prove It provides on how to utilize that. It's the community that helps drive it. And of course, Prove It has a bunch of other products that are very important for elevating ketones over a 24-hour period. So I think it's more than just a ketone product. Prove It teaches and has products that help promote a lifestyle that maximizes ketosis.
What does literature say on ketogenic dieting and cholesterol?
Well, the literature on ketogenic dieting and cholesterol, particularly people who have higher cholesterol levels and are overweight, will show that cholesterol will go down. So especially if you're overweight, the cholesterol will go down. Now, overall, your blood lipid profile, things like triglycerides, will go down as well. Particularly when you do a ketogenic diet, it promotes fat loss. Okay.
Keto and concussions.
So we're actually very interested in keto and concussions. When people have a concussion, they can't utilize glucose as well. And we can't use glucose as well, but your brain, here's what happens is you have an energy gap that's created. Your brain requires a lot more energy when it has a concussion, but it can't use glucose as well. So you have this gap. Now, interesting enough, when you get a concussion, your brain is smart. It says, oh, wait, I can't use glucose as well. So what does it get better at using immediately? The answer is ketones. In fact, it increases channels that uptake ketones into the brain. And so basically what that essentially means is that your body's actually begging for ketones when you actually have concussions. There's lots of studies that have been done that show that you improve your recovery from concussions when you take ketones, and that disruption that we see, that disequilibrium that we see after an insult to the head becomes improved. Keto and cancer, again, you're going to want to look at Dr. Dominique D'Agostino and Dr. Angela Popp's research on that. They've done a lot of animal studies in that and found that the combination of ketones and ketogenic dieting seems to have a very efficacious effect on cancer. So again, like the studies that she's done have showed a lot of positive benefits. So I'll definitely read into that.
Ketones and MCTs.
Okay, well, MCTs we have different fats, okay? So you have longer chain fats, maybe like 20. Think about fats as like long chains of carbons. Like think of a chain, a long chain of carbons that have hydrogens around them. If the chain's like 20 or 22 or 24, it's a long chain, okay? However, if you have something like a 6 carbon unit, or you have something like 8 carbons or 10 carbons, those are medium chains, so they call them medium chain triglycerides. They're so easy to break down that they get broken down so fast that basically what happens is that speed that they get broken down is so fast that you produce ketones at an elevated rate. Ketones oftentimes get produced when you're breaking down fat at an expedited rate, and one way to do that is to introduce MCTs. And of course, Mary Newport's got her product out, which I highly recommend. It's the best MCT market on the market. And of course, you have Keto Cream, which is really high, very high in MCTs. Can I gain muscle and lose fat at the same time? Nicole, yes. That's our specialty here. We've done more studies, published probably over 200 studies on body composition. And I can tell you right now for certain you can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. And ketogenic diet, in fact, we did a study with ketogenic dieting showing that you could do just that. Okay.
Keto and longevity.
Well, we actually just finished a study where we had rats, and the rats that were on ketones basically had more longevity than the rats that were not on ketones, quite a bit more, and ketogenic dieting also as well. So what we think is basically like with aging, and we actually met with, on Monday, we met with probably the world's #1 scientist on anti-aging. We'll keep you guys posted on what that is. But we're really doing research and work on anti-aging a lot here at ASPI, and in conjunction with Prove It. So we did some research with Prove It and stuff like that. We were looking at that lifespan component. We saw, again, the rats live longer. Now, why is it the case? We think aging is programmed. So, in essence, what does that mean? When you get older, imagine you have genes, and basically the light switch gets turned off for these genes. Well, ketones keep that light switch on longer, and therefore you live longer. So, yeah, I do think it's a very powerful way to prevent age-related decrements that we see. Remember, there's a thing called, there's biological age, and then there's actual chronological age. Biological is like how old are you really from a biological perspective. Ketones seem to make you younger in that perspective. So, okay. What are questions, you guys? First, I just want to say, guys, I love you out there, every single one of you guys. I mean, you guys are killing the game. Like, everyone on here, the reason why I'm on here, why I'm so excited to be on here today, like Brian said, hey, can you do a Facebook Live today? I said, hell yeah. I mean, think about it for a second. You guys are the most motivational people that I know. Like, God honest truth. I've never been more inspired than being around everyone that's on here. So I just want to say, like, huge shout out to you guys that are on here. You're freaking awesome. You're freaking awesome. Yep. So what else we got?
What about keto and pregnancy? But I don't know if that's a...
Yeah, again, that's a clinical topic. What I can tell you is there's studies in animals where they have the mom rat on a ketogenic diet, and when that pup is born, it's leaner, oftentimes has more muscle, but for the rest of its life seems to be less prone to being hit in a negative way by stress. So based on rat studies, there seems to be some promising research coming out on pregnancy. Someone talked about neuropathy. Again, you want to think about oftentimes, neuropathy oftentimes is a result of being insulin resistant, not being able to use glucose, and getting death of neurons. So what do? You provide an alternative energy source.
High protein diets put strains on kidneys, so I'm wondering the effects of a ketogenic diet.
Ketogenic diets aren't high protein. One, if you're healthy, high protein diets don't place strain on kidneys. That's one. Two, ketogenic diet's not a high protein diet, it's a moderate protein diet. So, on both counts, I wouldn't worry about that. This stuff has made such a change. It's awesome. Cindy, you are so welcome. Ashley, you're welcome too. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Someone says kidney disease. Well, again, Dom's done research on safety of ketones and saw no negative effects in kidneys, right? Teresa says, thanks for all you do. Teresa, thank you.
DOMS? Did you touch on DOMS?
DOMS. So DOMS is delayed onset muscle soreness. It's where you get sore. We do have some preliminary data in our lab that shows that you are not as sore. So again, it lowers that inflammation, which is what DOMS is really all about, is that inflammatory response. Okay. Kathy says, thank you so much, Dr. Wilson. See you in Dallas. I'll see you in Dallas too. I'm super excited. Does keto cream have ketones in it? Keto cream has special types of fats that convert to ketones at a very high rate. That's why we recommend keto cream extensively. Okay.
Keto and epilepsy. Drinking causes ketones with epilepsy?
Again, when you look at epilepsy, it's a seizure type of effect. There's a lot of positive research with ketones and ketogenic dieting in epilepsy. Definitely talk to your physician about that. But it seems to have a lot of efficacy. Type 2, I can say so. Love my cream. That's awesome.
I'll read it to you. Type 2, been on the product 6.5 months and deleted one of my insulins and down 55 pounds.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
That is Jason Horan.
Jason, fist bump. That's freaking awesome. Bell's palsy, same thing. Ketogenic dieting. Again, most neurological disorders are a result of either mitochondrial dysfunction, inflammation, or poor ability to use glucose. Ketones address each of those, and that's why I think that could be very beneficial.
Ketones, and kind of endurance or distance athletes.
So ketones and endurance or distance athletes is a very good question. Basically, the thing you got to understand is this. Jeff Volk says it like this. When you're on the road, if you are like a fuel tanker and you ran out of gas on the road, it would make no sense because you're literally transporting a ton of fuel. When you do ketogenic dieting or in conjunction with ketones, you allow yourself to tap into that almost endless fuel source, which is your own body's fat. So we do think that's beneficial. However, a colleague of ours, Dr. Veach, did research on endurance. He did it with cyclists. He found that when he gave cyclists ketones, they preferred ketones over glucose, and their performance went up. They were also producing less lactose, or lactate, which is the acidity that you produce, which means that they were relying a lot of that as fuel. So absolutely for long distance. I'm 60 and feel like I'm 30 again. Hell yeah. That's freaking awesome. To us, that's what it's all about. That's why you guys are so freaking awesome. Okay.
Osteoarthritis?
You gotta think of osteoarthritis again as an inflammatory condition. There is evidence that ketones help with inflammation. So you have to kind of do the math on that. As of yesterday, I'm down like a lot of inches. That's awesome. Maria says, thank you. I appreciate you. Okay. Let's see.
Optimal blood sugar for ketosis.
You know, the thing is, ketosis, it's difficult because the one thing I want to point out to you guys is this. It depends. Like when you're in a ketogenic diet, when blood glucose, you want to keep blood glucose under 100. I say when you're in a ketogenic diet. Anywhere from 80 to 100 throughout the day. Now, sometimes people get it lower than that, and I think that could drive ketosis up. Ketones actually help keep blood glucose at a lower level. There's lots of evidence on that. Ketones and Alzheimer's. This is from Mary Magazine. Well, Mary, as you know, our good friend, Mary Newport, basically wrote the book on keto and Alzheimer's, and we definitely see that it has a positive effect. With Alzheimer's, they can't use glucose as well, but they can still utilize ketones. And so there's a lot of powerful stories that are out there on that.
What about
muscular dystrophy? Potentially, because again, it's a you do have a lot of inflammation when you come to that, so potentially can help.
Keto and hypothyroidism.
Keto and hypothyroidism, there's some evidence that keto actually might help improve the sensitivity of you to thyroid hormone, but also we know that ketones themselves make you less efficient. So if you have a lower thyroid levels, that means that essentially your metabolism is not going to be as high. So you want to make your ability to utilize normal calories less efficient, and ketones seem to make you a less efficient person at storing calories. Ketones and autism, same thing. People with autism usually can't use glucose to the same extent.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's super cool. And ketones seem to help with that. What caused insulin resistance? Judy, that's a really great question. And, well, I mean, we could talk about genetics. That's certainly a thing in there, but definitely lifestyle. So you want to think about this. What is insulin resistance? Insulin is released from the pancreas. It goes to the muscle and liver, too, and says, hey, guess what, muscle? You got to there's glucose in the blood, take it up. Basically, it's talking to the muscle. Insulin resistance in the muscle is almost like you going deaf, right? So it's like, I can't hear. So your muscles can't hear. So what happens if you're talking to someone and they can't hear? What do? You talk louder, right? I'm going to talk louder. When your muscles go insulin resistant, your pancreas talks louder by releasing more insulin. So how does that happen? If you eat a lot of glucose, particularly high sugar glucose, unrefined carbohydrates, blood sugar's going up, blood sugar's going up, blood sugar's going up, and it makes you release a ton of insulin every single time. Eventually, when you have that much of that hormone in your blood, your cells start to become resistant to insulin. So how do you counter that? Exercise is a way to counter that. Exogenous ketones is a way to counter that. A low-carb ketogenic diet is a way to counter that. Okay, so 2 more questions, guys. And again, you guys are freaking phenomenal. I mean, I absolutely love you guys. 2 more questions that we got here. Where can I find documentation on ketones and autism? If you go to PubMed or you go to Google Scholar, look up ketones and autism, you'll see papers jumping up. Carrie, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Effect with chemo? That's...
Yeah, a little bit of a clinical question. But again, if you're talking about chemo and you're talking about cancer and stuff like that, Dr. Angela Poff has done a lot of research in animal studies showing it can be efficacious. So, guys, thank you so much. I'm so excited to see you. I believe I'll come see you in November. Pretty sure. When's Gasparilla?
Gasparilla?
Yeah, I know I'm going to see them then too.
Oh, it's coming up.
Yeah, but I know I'm going to see you guys in November.
January.
So November and January for sure. I know I'm going to come up and see you guys. I'm freaking excited to see every single one of you. You have no freaking idea. I'm literally counting down the days. Like, so, I mean, you got Thanksgiving, I get to see each of you guys, fist pump you, and on top of that, I get to see my family, or you guys are my family, but I get to see two families, you and my mom and my dad, even my brother. Very excited. So thank you again. Thanks for joining. Share the love. Any questions you have, you guys know you can reach out. I'll see you guys in November. Thank you very much.